Hello, everyone. This is question 2 on the extra review here. You can use this again to help you with the review that you have. So here we have the limit as x approaches 4 of 2x squared plus 8x plus 3 all over 2x minus 7. Notice that we can just go ahead and try and plug in 4. If we do, notice that if you're looking at the denominator here, 4 times 2 is 8 minus 7 is 1. That's not 0. So as a result, I can go ahead and just plug in 4. A lot of people forget there are times where you just plug it in. So that's what I'm going to do here. So whenever I plug this in, this is going to give me 2 parentheses 4 close parentheses squared plus 8 parentheses 4 close parentheses plus 3. And then all over 2 parentheses 4 close parentheses minus 7. And now we just need to go type that in. And let me go ahead and show you the easy way of typing it in. So if we go to the calculator here, ignore this. Okay, so if we go to y equals, clear anything in here. On y1, actually, I don't know why I'm going to ignore that. Just on the home screen here, do alpha y equals enter. And notice that it gives me a square over square. And I can just type this in exactly. So then we do 2 parentheses 4 close parentheses, and the square button is right here. And then plus 8 parentheses 4 close parentheses plus 3. And then either do the right arrow or the down arrow. It doesn't really matter which one you choose. And then go to the denominator and do 2 parentheses 4 close parentheses minus 7. And there you go. That's exactly the way we wrote it down. So if we click enter, notice it tells us that this value is 67. And there you go. That is the answer to part A here. For part B down here, notice if I plug in -2, that's giving me 0 here. But if I plug in -2 up here, that gives me 0. So it's 0 over 0. So that means I can probably do something. When that happens, you need to go ahead and factor everything. Now in the numerator, we have x squared minus 4. The factorization of x squared minus 4, well, x squared minus 4 is a difference of 2 squares. It's in the form of a squared minus b squared. And the factorization of a difference of 2 squares is a plus b times a minus b. It is a product of conjugates. So in order to factor this one, first of all, remember to write down the limit as x approaches -2, because we aren't plugging it in yet. So the limit still needs to exist. And then for x squared minus 4 here, I'm going to go ahead and say that factorization is 2 sets of parentheses. One has a positive, one has a negative. And then I simply take the square root of each one of these individually. So the square root of x squared is x. So there's an x and an x there. Square root of 4 is 2. So it's a 2 and a 2 there. So it's x plus 2 times x minus 2. And the denominator, that can't be factored. But because we've factored the numerator, there's an x plus 2 as a factor there. And this is one big factor in the denominator. And so those two are going to cancel each other. And what that does is it creates, this is asking for the limit as x approaches -2 of x minus 2. And notice there is no denominator. So now I can go ahead and plug in -2 into here. When I do that, that gives me -2 minus 2, which is, of course, -4. And there you go. Now, please be careful. Don't make that 0 because, well, frankly, it's not 0. It's -2 minus 2. Letter C, the limit as x approaches 3 of x squared plus x minus 12, all over x squared minus 9. Well, if you notice here, plugging in 3 will give me 0 divided by 0. You can just go type that into the calculator. You'll see it gives you an undefined value. Now, to do this, we have to go ahead and see if we can cancel the issue in the denominator, which means we need to factor everything here. Now, the factorization of the numerator, well, we have the limit as x approaches 3 there. In the numerator, x squared plus x minus 12. That will factor, and that will factor as 2 sets of parentheses. And what's nice is that we have a leading coefficient of 1, so that makes that an x there and an x there. Now this minus sign means that one's positive, one's negative. And we ask ourselves what multiplies to 12 and has a difference of 1. Well, that would be 4 and 3. Now, between the 4 and 3, there are two possibilities. The 4 can be positive and the 3 negative, or the 4 can be negative and the 3 positive. Now, notice that 4 minus 3 is positive 1, and negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. And notice that this is a positive here, so we actually want that to be positive here. So we're going to use a positive 4 and a negative 3 there. And that's the factorization of x squared plus x minus 12. Now in the denominator, x squared minus 9, that's another difference of two squares here. So it will factor the exact same way. That means that the denominator, two sets of parentheses, one positive, one negative, and take the square root of everything you see here. Square root of x squared is x. Square root of 9 is 3. And then notice, of course, the x minus 3's cancel each other. So they're gone. So what I'm really left with here is the limit as x approaches 3 of x plus 4 over x plus 3. And what's nice is that the factor that was giving me 0 in the denominator is gone. So now I can just plug in 3, and that's going to give me 3 plus 4 over 3 plus 3, which of course simplifies to 7 over 6. Good deal. Now, letter D, the limit as x approaches 7 of x squared minus 2x minus 35 all over x minus 7. Notice that if I plug in 7 here, both the numerator and denominator become 0. So I need to go ahead and factor everything I can here. Only the numerator will factor here, but that's fine. So we have the limit as x approaches 7 of. Now in the numerator, we have two sets of parentheses. We have an x and an x because the leading coefficient is 1. This minus sign here means that we have one positive, one negative. So we have a plus and a minus. And then ask yourself what multiplies to 35 and has a difference of 2. Well, that would be 7 and 5. And again, the 7 and 5, we have two different possibilities. We can have 7 minus 5 or negative 7 plus 5. Notice that 7 minus 5 gives us 2, negative 7 plus 5 gives us negative 2. We want it to be negative, so we want this bottom. So the 7 needs to be negative, and the 5 needs to be positive. And then all over the denominator of x minus 7. Wonderful. Now notice again, the x minus 7's cancel, and what we're left with here is the limit as x approaches 7 of just x plus 5 in the numerator here. Now notice if I plug in 7, that just gives me 12. And there we go. Alrighty. So here is question 2 on your review. Have fun.